It's the 12th of the 8th month of 1438, and with my great tablet arranged with the top side south. Okay. A deeper understanding of Enochian initiation, one Thelemite's journey into the ultimate transcendence by Frater W.I.T. Now, it'd be better understood this way because this is definitely one of the right orders, and you flip them upside down, and that's not the right order for the great tablet. But this, you'll see all the variation as opposed to the other versions that I've seen in print. This diagram has all the variations of all the squares, and it's annotated by color instead of red, white, and black, just where you can see the cavalry crosses. But okay. Deeper understanding of Enochian initiation, one Thelemite's journey into the ultimate transcendence by Frater W.I.T, and this is from the 12th of the 8th month of 1437. Frater W.I.T starts with the Earth tablet, but the governor names might indicate that a person would be better off to start with water, whether or not ascending from the 30th to the first, or descending to the 30th from the first author of the Enochian system. So that would be water, and then you'd end up in water again in the usual order. Enochian and other forms of magic can help a person make sense of the world as one goes over a series of matters in one's art and science of religion. It is a way to experience psychotropic experiences without the risk of drugs. Some experiences are more visual, others are more by sound or sensation. Some experiences bring in something new. Others affirm or restore what was already known. Enochian initiation continues the working with the 6 seniors per tablet with air. Obviously, this is in the order of Kabbalistic ascent. Some of the interpretations go there before more relevant to Enochian are personal mythology. It seems the hexagram rituals of other ways may not be needed with Enochian because of the cross of 6 bars that is every quadrant of the Great Table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 7 characters long, the multicolored bits there. Some find one sort of energy easier to work with and evoke them more than others are more understandable. It was with the mercury of air on the air tablet, Argono Ahat, that the Thelemic communion of saints was achieved, with collective and individual projections merging with Frater W.I.T and his magic circle. Moon of Mercury, Moon of Mercury, Moon of Air maybe, was a more sexual revelation, but Venus of Air was like a lover. Saturn of Air brought like a preparation of death. Mars of Air evoked a will to live, as Saturn of Air was the will to die. Thelemic and yogic interpretation of the visions abound. The King of Air evoked vast space. By now a reader should know that Frater W.I.T was trying to experience himself as transcendent R, is thinking of himself as becoming a living God. He knew that he had to unite his beingness with no-thingness. The similar types of different categories probably needed merged first. Was he really doing All this on the authority of his holy guardian angel. What sort of beings were these angels? Formerly was the tablet of earth, R, South, the Hubyebaten are the tablet of water, Ohoun are the tablet of fire, and the tablet of union with forms, Ors Tilok are the black cross, were to follow. Water was of the nervous system. Water was the essence. Jupiter of water was the ancient feminine embrace. Mercury of water was the reconstruction of self-esteem and the coherence of higher consciousness. Venus of water was of dimensions and connections between them. Mars of water was of change beyond mere conceptions and a sense of godless existence, a Frater W.I.T. So black, Saturn, silver, moon, Venus, green, Mars, red, purple, Mercury, blue, Jupiter. Deny spiritual realities all you want, but something slipped in to play a role that some will call the madness and appearance of devils. Moon of water seemed to be debasing and effeminate just out of adolescence that hasn't come to terms with the consequences of life way. There are other entities and experiences he and others had that can be said to be demonic lovers. After reflecting the role of prophets of old, Saturn of water gave way to a Thelemite cross. I made one of 25 orange fuzzy straws to hang on the left side of my front door. This image was just a part of the dark, expansive source with Saturn of water. Venus of water is the joining of the parts of self in a hypnagogic state. The masculine of Jupiter of water orbits the feminine, and a person is ready for king or son of water after working to do more than just be more aware. Magic and life as a whole are to bring self-consciousness, among other things. The aura becomes a reflection of the higher realms. We are a part of the whole, and sometimes the tests you are called to are those done by a partner, whether or not they stay with you. Formerly, it was of north, east, and west, south, and center were to follow. Mercury, of fire, was of cubes, movement, and a fiery being. Elemental worlds, strange darkness, and the rising kundalini energy of the chakras. Venus of fire was with a tetrahedron, emanation, and sensual touch without sexuality. Moon of fire was like a metal singer spiraling from a tetrahedron, giving the message of a world of sparks in the black. Before the accidents and ritual preparation to continue, he knew that he needed to more fully surrender to something other than himself, and was feeling the upcoming rite. He was possessed and overwhelmed like never before when he finally did it, but knew that these things were right about him, not quite being ready. Mars of fire was approached stoically. The so-called god forms and symbols made in the air remained astrally. You know, the emotional projections, And the male red dragon came in with a message that taught that God's name is behind fire's power. Space was as a tetrahedron centered around its central point, and the blessing of the red dragon is as an enduring and intense heat. Jupiter fire is like a middle-aged male with wings in white robes. Among spirals and cylinders, he knew there was a balance between separation and merging that he had not yet attained to. Saturn of fire can project your image on the fire tablet and enter into with its speech and visions. At first, it is like a full-grown man in white robes. See the rest of my page, maybe. You'll see me in white robes somewhere. Like me, in the hottest of summer. Then it is a completely non-human entity teaching how the manifestations of the higher make their way to the material. At around 38 years of age, Frater W.I.T evoked Ila Prana, the King of Fire, as the final elemental working of a 33 ritual operation. I will tell you that it was his life's peak experience, and that its light red, fiery head was room-sized. He was tried in his ability to evoke, control his will, and in emotional maintenance. He convinced himself that he mastered the elemental skills, was worthy, and was accustomed with these jinn that are called elementals. The flames became regarded as the joyful source of consciousness and being. The subjects of the workings were as the physical, the mental, emotional, and will or energy. Spirit was to follow. Earth the spirit, and air of spirit didn't seem to convey anything new, but was a collection of the old experiences. Earth of spirit was about appearance and disappearance. Air of spirit expressed a mirror world and a dark star in the world of transcendent darkness. K announced itself as a projection, as Rumto had before. Frater W.I.T was at the Golden Dawn grade portal and now felt he was ready to handle a full round of operation. Was he? Did his initiation degree matter when he had Enochian experience that surpassed that? Water of spirit seemed to be a success, but it seemed too transcendent to make full contact. Aont was to be called at night to better understand being and non-beingness. Doubt and shifting of dogmas continued. It as an act of silence, but he was not as silent as he wished. Fire of spirit was a superconscious sky. A being of white lines in the black brought forth projections of the self and ascending being of a higher realm from a temple. He needed to light his fire with palm until it was as a dirty, bright, black hotness. Overeating didn't bring him down. The tablet of union, the 5x4 square of Ixarp, Hakoma, Nananta, Biatom, and, you know, the columns are what we're reading here. The tablet of union can be very intense, but the of spirit and pure elements were more gentle and refined than working with the king of each element. Spirit of spirit was the 33rd. The first included 24 seniors, 4 kings, and 4 elements of spirit. Working of this process with the Enochian watchtower system, Frater W.I.T seemed to be beyond dimensions among cubes of each dimension. The cubes each had a flame, or light, or water, or orange to match its fire, air, water, and earth. Is spirit a purely mental manifestation? Are there phases beyond information, energy, and division? What is the case of the effeminate male in gold slippers? Rest in between with your wingless potential. Return to the lower worlds. But don't think you need to banish anything when aright. Then Frater W.I.T went on to perform a second round. Did he do too much Enochian magic, or not enough? With some systems, once through is enough, but that is never the case when it is one's opinion of orthodoxy and orthopraxy. I personally quit 3 years as a member in an initiatic society after experiencing the general variety of that system and writing 45 papers on the initiate program of that group. See my New Age religion playlist for that in the future, plus some other stuff I had written that I have not released in video format, or maybe haven't released to the general public at all. Frater W.I.T thought he needed to rework this system in order to control the rise of unconscious content. Most would think that smaller or more regular practices would better prepare him to continue, but he went along with the New Age current of breaking from the practices or reducing them when they become too much. It was time to give invocations individually and make a separate record for the Enochian watchtowers. Jupiter of Earth, now to remind you, it's the blue again. Mercury is the purple, red is the Mars, green is the Venus, silver is the moon, and black is Saturn, obviously. And the quadrants are attributed that same. Jupiter of Earth evoked what was annoyed at him, going through the process again. King of Earth evoked what told him to go on to the air tablet, and that Earth is a stagnant foundation. Is the physical so unchanging? If Frater W.I.T was a devotee, or admitted that more than just projections were realized, he would have surely found more to experience in the Earth tablet. You know, the 12 by 13 squares here. Jupiter of Air evoked a yellow presence in white, teaching that air was less about movement than not being confined to a place. It was Frater W.I.T's choice how to proceed after the shapes were given form in matter and time. Moon of Air evoked a feminine moon-like face on a being that wanted sexual touching and kissing. Hutmorda was to be invoked for sex with spirits. After realizing this, his entire body was its mouth. At night, he psychically fornicated with it again. When the scene shifted, it was like children playing. Venus of Air evoked what wanted him to open his mind instead of himself sexually. Venusian aspects call more towards veneration, and Frater W.I.T needed work on his prejudice against virgins and the chaste. Before entering the Queen of Swords palace, he needed to identify who, why, what, and what of his approach. She was the only way to the King of Swords. He needed to be stripped, baptized, burnt, and lifted by smoke first. Was he pure enough of mind for either Venus of Air or Son of Air? He knew that he only needed to use the Enochian calls and tablets in his temple operations. He thought he needed to have spirit sex with Aha-Uzpe. Okay. 2. He was mounted with Venus of Air by this more attractive blonde. When it was over, the dark current of the Dark Mother went from his feet to his head, causing a dissociative state, with white light going between his parts. In the next Venus of Air operation, he worked through childhood trauma as an ancient bearded man moved around them. He went through the Gate of Light, ascending 8 golden stairs, and went on to the vast blue sky, where he realized that the King of Air was the sort of metaprogrammer or dream sensor that people speak of, but he was not ready for a more full vision of that yet. How then could he get what he had thought was to intercede on his behalf? In the third and final Venus of Air working, the queen there said that her name was Mardala, a raven-haired woman of intense manifestation that seemed to be relating things based on verses of Aleister Crowley's Book of the Law. Mars of Air evoked what communicated in a face-to-face sort of way of an initiation through consuming a dark liquid and having his form consumed in blackness. He thought that he was realizing his godhood as he went on to evoke Jupiter of Air. Frater W.I.T experienced what he didn't consider to have anything to do with his personality and past. Among the vision of the new way, he was shown a symbol that he swore not to reveal to those who did not prove their grade. The symbol integrated itself into him, and he listened to Ozaf's sermon on celestial existence. Frater W.I.T then considered himself to be part of an invisible order of Thelemic consciousness. With Mars of Air, a being with the typical moon face of an air vision was evoked to put energy through him. He later realized that he was fooled, and the missing initiation took place. Would being spiritually seduced and fooled be necessary in spiritual development? Mercury of Air was initially what he thought was missing. They evoked something like the Sun Tarot card, without the children and wall. Avtotar told him to take the 2 pairs or orange-yellow tablets with Sanskrit-like inscriptions and meditate on their mystery. Saturn of Air evoked an indigo being in a red-violet space. His chest was touched by what he thought was Hippotuga, breaking his vision body open to reveal his own indigo-colored child of Hippotuga to guide him. King of Air evoked a large being behind and below him, which held Frater W.I.T in his hands. A symbol as profound as that with Jupiter of Air was on a double door that he knocked on 6 times, thinking it was of the sphere of beauty. After swearing to keep his ordeal secret and such, he was blindfolded and saw a book bound in brown leather. The vision was like the Hierophant card in a way, but it was not the king of air, and he was not to banish Bateva. So it's sort of a spiral going in. Like Aleister Crowley, after he left the Golden Dawn, he later sought out to invoke King of Air in Adept Temple style. With the interconnection that he was missing, he was similarly held, but consecrated with the Pillar of Smoke, and had a second symbol like the Jupiter of Air one placed in his energy field. Frater W.I.T was handed to the being thought to be the King of Air and worn like a lament on his breast. Then he sat on top of his head like a crown. After receiving a secret word to move about in a city, Frater W.I.T went about in a very complex, hyperdimensional place, like unto a yellow flower in its way. Mardala was invoked to join him there. He felt loved and buzzy. Frater W.I.T now considered himself a hierophant of the age of Horus, the conquering child. At least that is less on the delusions of grandeur side than taking himself as a god was. He was to move from the personal air to the impersonal water. First, he was thought to invoke Bateva as the principle of the Hanged Man tarot card. He was told that he was ready to move on to water and taken to a place of dark, endless waters. After evoking himself, it seemed the 6 water seniors were around him. Frater W.I.T seemed to play Ra-Yosel, King of Water, in his dream. He communicated with the dark ocean and the beings thought to be water seniors till he felt rearranged and more archetype-centered. And, the eyes are also heptagoga, hyptoga, hypotga, rageoso. Moon of Water seemed to be about the best possible place to start with the water seniors, as would be Saturn and Air, Mars and Fire, and Venus and Earth. A moon-faced being in dark robes thought to be Lawaxrup held his vision body in her hands. In the calm world there, Frater W.I.T continued to reject the concept that any being he encountered in a vision or dream was any but an extension of himself. Countless events occur, and a magician is to try to link them. There is no darkness, but Nuit and the extensions of this dark goddess, or something called a dark goddess anyway, is the message. Mercury of Water initially failed, but later reached into sailing and being guided by a star that was supposed to be the sun. Its captain didn't seem like Sonizmt to him, or any of the entities that he directly communicated with. One of the 24 seniors, 4 kings, or a spirit of blank. Frater W.I.T thought The working was a failure because water was not his level yet. He thought that he needed to dissolve his individuality, as in the Hanged Man tarot card. Moon of Water was repeated, and a trans-dimensional clarity of a jewel was evoked. The jewel was like an angel to him, and he thought that he had reached a stage where his projections transcended the images of the superconscious. Mercury of Water evoked like a blue hole that manifested light from darkness to consume. His angels that come forth either are projections or the fragmented mental construction of something beyond human. He could see through himself and glowed there. Venus of Water was like an operation and reprogramming. It was analogous of the earlier Saturn of Air vision. The Scale vision included alchemical symbolic scenes after that. Then his light-skinned self ran from his dark-skinned self to address his lower self. Mars of Water evoked dark stars and white and a mountain that was impassable. Space turned black and the stars turned red and blue before he closed. Jupiter of Water evoked what was like a British judge and a golden star like a Lazar star from a point in a light show in a dark field. Laser, I'm sure I meant. A Mercury and Mars symbol merged, and the being assumed to be Sayanov questioned Frater W.I.T as to where the original was and warned about passing time. This was the third Jupiter being to imprint a sign on his energy field. Saturn of Water was as evoking a Greek sage, directing to remember oneness. He was placed in the ocean of silky white goo, deemed later to be imbibing him with super quicksilver. King of Water evoked going through a hole among elliptical rings as a ribbon. Self-realization is to be merged with universal consciousness. Mars of Water evoked a twilight scene of Earth. The being considered to be Lesrahpam showed him a tar pit as a source of matter and energy. Earth, air, and water were there. Fire was on the next tablet. Moon of Fire evoked what was the bright, clear contrast of water with orange and red, beyond what could be seen with the eyes in a blue sky. Al-Nudvode was in tone, bringing auric rings around Frater W.I.T and a genderless head. He was worn out and repeated another time, then seemed successful, but he struggled to integrate the dissociative state in this place full with small streams and folds of white flames. The fire spoke of how a will was pure. Mercury of Fire evoked the transitions in the way that Frater W.I.T realized that fire is a gateway in 1987. Orange flames encircled him. Then different colors were seen as the experience waned. Fire visions can hurt. You know, you can psychosomatically hurt yourself with magic. The being thought to be anodyne did not hurt him, but affirmed his belief in fire as a focal point. He tried to speak to a curious lion there in a scene like the Prince of Wands tarot card, and a meaning like the Lusts or Strength tarot card. As you may be able to tell, I'm psychologically analyzing this, and the book's like something, I don't remember, 200 something pages, so sometimes I'm giving a line per page. So if you want to hear the full vision of this guy, better get his book. I'm just interpreting here. Lust, Strength, Tarot card. Venus of Air evoke the showing of a plain yellow tetrahedron as the core unfolding among colored sparks. The fire equivalent of Mardala was considered to be Aptoki. It commanded to look at the steel sphere with a black cross on its top. The being put it as Frater W.I.T's crown. Mars' fire left him initiated into the Hall of Fire and feeling like religions were based on that place. A red gold twist was considered to be eat pio. Eat pio. There was a blinding white space full of burning white crystalline snakes, which were thought to represent cross spheres. Frater W.I.T. went to a castle obscured by thick gray mist and proved himself there to gain the golden key of the superlative. The key given to him by Elijah, the wizard, with the same name as Frater W.I.T., remained in his energy field as he went to work Jupiter of fire. Adoioit, and the rest of the fire tablet workings now all seemed like initiations instead of 6 seniors and a king being needed to have one. Red and blue hexagrams abounded, showing him that the true and invisible order was a Thelemite Golden Dawn style organization. A regal being with curly white hair summoned Frater W.I.T. as Elijah. And, you know, your projections do matter in your ultimate judgment, and if you really believe a path, that kind of influences how you're judged. But anyways, the Rose of God was handed over and worn as a crown in his egregor field. You know, his psychological constructions. A ring of light went out before he was engulfed in vast darkness. Was his aesthetic misassociation a type of spiritual bipolar disorder? He began to think that he was the solar phallus and secret of life incarnate before an anxiety attack. The confused signs were not schizophrenia because he remained equiposed. These jumbled dreams were interpreted as his history of transmigration of the soul. Or had Frater W.I.T. stripped that sort of thing as even involving a soul or spirit? So he would struggle with that issue. Is this all psychological, or is there something spiritual I'm witnessing? A lot of atheistic people go through these struggles. Saturn of Jupiter evoked himself around himself as Elijah and as the 8th chakra. The left hand is as this 8th separat,